everybody, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and welcome back to the Disney Debate, where Cat McBerry, Doug McBerry, and myself talk about Disney films and Disney products throughout the decades. Once again, I am joined by Cat McBerry.
Hello, hello. Happy New Year, everyone. Hasn't it been a wonderful year so far? Twitch.
It feels like a decade and it's only been a month.
I hate January.
January feels like forever. And it feels like forever. No one ever tells you that forever feels like January. And we are joined once again by Doug McBerry.
Break out the chimichangas. It's time to decapitate 2024.
Yeah, so it's been a year. And as always, for the end of year, we break down the top whatever Disney films. Now, granted, in past years, we started to get way too many films, and when it got to like 15, it took so long that I just decided, okay, we're gonna cut this down and cap it at 10. However, this year, for 2024, there weren't 10 films to talk about. Now, granted, there were films that we could have talked about, but we haven't seen any of the franchise. There's The First Omen, which I haven't seen any Omen films. There's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. There's like a few others that are technically Disney films, but we didn't talk about them simply because they aren't really Disney films, and we don't know anything about that. I mean, Kat, do you really want to talk about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
No, I don't, and neither does my daughter, if you can hear in the background.
Yeah, Remy does not want to talk about that one. No siree. So we decided to narrow it down to the top 6 Disney films of 2024. We're not talking about Alien Romulus. We haven't talked about any of the Alien films. We're just focusing on the Disney films that are Disney, stuff that we've talked about, you know, Walt Disney Pictures, Marvel Studios, stuff like that. And we're going to do our usual spiel where we discuss them in release order, rank them, and debate. Although this year was a very easy year to rank, I'm gonna be honest, like, there's a clear loser, and there's a clear winner, and while some have shifted throughout, there were some that, like, this was never going to make anywhere on the list, even in the top 6. Doug, would you agree with that?
I'd say there's a clear 2 winners, a clear 2 losers, and a clear middle area.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not like there was a lot of bad this year. There just wasn't a lot. And, I mean, we had some middle ground here and there. I think it best to start off with our first film, because this one was the first Disney Plus original of the year, Young Woman and the Sea. This was one that I hadn't seen advertised except when I started watching films on Disney Plus. And I'm going to say right now, before we even get into this, I don't like this practice. You need to have advertisement, even if it's just on your service, because right now, the biggest problem is that it wasn't advertised enough for this film. But personally, I put Young Woman in the Sea at number 2.
Yeah, I put Swim in the Sea about number 4.
I also put it at number 4.
So we have a little bit of disparaging there, and I'll get into why I feel this way as we get down the list. But the thing is, I really thought this was a good film. It is a period piece about it's based on a true story about a woman who swam the English Channel, and I thought, for the most part, it was a very good film. It was a little bit long, and it does have parts where I'm just like, okay, we get it. The swimming the English Channel is very hard to do. It's not an easy thing. you can move on with it. But I think what really stuck out with me is that, especially in this day and age, seeing a push for women's rights, and something that I did not know historically, that there was a boat fire and so many women drowned because they did not have the ability to swim, because women back in this time period were thought to be too weak to be able to swim. And I'm like, what? Kat, you want to take over from there?
Well, it wasn't so much that they were thought to be too weak. It was considered, quote unquote, improper for them to swim. Obviously, ability was part of it. People thought women were so dainty, there's no way they could swim. I mean, heck, part of the whole thing with the witch trials was that, if a woman could swim, she was a witch. So clearly there was a huge stigma against women swimming. But yeah, like you said, that boat accident happened, and it was one of the deadliest accidents that had happened around New York City, in general. And so after that happened, and when it was mostly women and children who perished because, again, they didn't know how to swim, even though it was shallow water, that's when people started to change their minds and think, well, I guess we can let women swim if it saves their lives. So yeah, definitely definitely a commentary about how, it takes something that extreme for women to be allowed to do something. But yeah, in terms of the story, yeah, it's a fascinating look at Gertrude Erdele, who, like you said, is the first woman to ever swim the English Channel. And she herself is interesting. She's a child of immigrants. She was raised in New York City. She's in an environment where, again, she's not really allowed to swim, especially because she suffered from smallpox as a child, which left her partially deaf. And because
and
back
measles.
then
She beat measles.
Yeah, measles. That's what I meant, measles. Because because of that, she went partially deaf, but also she wasn't really allowed to swim with other people because they were afraid she would contaminate them. So she had to basically learn on her own, and basically suffer her way through a lot of things just to be able to be taught. And you see that she has a natural ability. Like, heck, she manages to swim from New York City to Sandy Hook, New Jersey. And I've been to Sandy Hook, and I've seen New York City from that distance, and that is far, and that is a treacherous swim, but she does it in 22 hours. That's a record that hadn't been beaten in over 80 years. So, you definitely have a reason to root for her, because she definitely has talent and everything. Of course, this is the 1920s. There's a lot of, obviously, there's a lot of misogyny going around, a lot of men that don't want women involved in sports whatsoever, but, she still manages to do it despite all that. So that's what this whole story is about. Although I will say this right now, this definitely gets the Hollywood treatment big time. Have you ever seen a feel-good underdog sports movie? This is one of those, for certain.
Yeah, there's some cliche bits. I will say that Jerry Bruckheimer was the right person to direct this. Produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, but you get these big sweeping shots. It feels very Pirates of the Caribbean during the swimming segments. You can kind of feel that same energy. But it does have that Hollywoodization. I like the commentary. I like that, Trudy beat measles. There's all this stuff. But the first and second half don't fully connect to each other. It shows the barrier that, the coach that she got to go to the Olympics wanted them to not succeed, so didn't actually coach them. And the coach eventually was going to be her coach for the English Channel until he sabotaged her and she had to do it herself. So there is a connection there, but a lot of the first half is her training for the Olympics and getting ready, learning to swim and stuff like that. And the second half is the English Channel. And some of it could have been cut down, I think. But Doug, what do you think?
No, I mean, honestly, I think it works. It does feel a bit long for certain, but I feel like everything that needs to be there is, in fact, there.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you that Jerry Bruckheimer was the right person to shoot this. Definitely, you feel the scale of things, just how small she is in comparison to, the distance that she has to travel, and you're just equally as exhausted through the whole thing, especially as, she gets to the end during the evening, and it's like, you can barely see anything, she can barely see anything. It definitely really pulls you in, to what she's feeling, what she's going through, what the people who are, rooting for her are going through. But yes, I definitely think that in terms of pacing, it does feel slow, but it's the right pace for what it needs to be.
I think for me personally, what I like about it sets it apart, because I don't think any film this year was truly perfect, and we'll talk about it when we get to my top, and while I love it, there are problems I do have with it. Woman in the Sea, I feel, stands out by being a singular character struggle. While it is long, while it is a little bit cliche, it has so many moments that really stood out to me, to where I had to put it at number 2, where I feel like there's not a lot that holds it back, and there's stuff that I do fully enjoy. Now, you guys put it at number 4. I can kind of see why, because I have a little bit of different opinion on like some of the middle points. But Kat, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so again, because I wouldn't say I'm a sports person, but I'm a sports fan, and I've seen a lot of sports movies, a lot of the typical ones, like Remember the Titans and Rudy and Sandlot and Big Green and everything. So because of that, I kind of know the formula for these by now. So I kind of was spotting all of those cliches in this movie. So that's part of why I wasn't as impressed with it as you were, because again, I've seen a lot of these before. Plus, I looked up the real story to see how accurate this was, and like I said, this gets the Hollywood treatment, because a lot of stuff that happens in this either doesn't happen or is really overblown. For instance, her father being disapproving and not being the slightest bit supportive until the very end, when he sees what she's done and what she's going to do, and suddenly he comes around. That never happened. Her father was actually very supportive of her, to the point where he was almost overprotective of her. But he still, helped her cross the channel in the end. You have the whole thing with her jumping off the boat after she fails swimming the channel the first time, and going for it again without all the press around. Again, that didn't happen. She actually waited an entire year and then tried it again and then succeeded. So
they also got a little bit of the Olympics wrong, because she did win a gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she won a gold and 2 bronze medals, so she didn't totally tank it. And actually, from what I heard, she was allowed to train on the boat with the other women. In fact, she actually hurt her arm wrestling a guy, one of the other male swimmers. So it wasn't mostly that the fact that she was kept from training that she didn't do as well. It was more the fact that that was a long-ass boat trip, and this is the 1920s, so, it took a good long time for them to, cross the ocean, and then they had to cross, the French countryside and everything, so it was more just travel fatigue that got to everybody, as opposed to, them being physically kept from training.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of that stuff in here, and, I will admit that the whole thing with her coach possibly drugging her and sabotaging her could have been real. I can't say for certain, because while Gertrude herself says that it did, nobody's been able to verify it. So I can't say for certain it's true, although it seems like it was. But
it would be. It could have happened, but we can't verify it.
Yeah, I mean, some people theorize that he did it not just because, he didn't want her to take the glory that he himself had sought, but also because he figured that if she did actually succeed, then not as many women would try to swim the channel, and he wouldn't get as much work as he was hoping to get from this. So, that was his ways of keeping himself in business. Either way, it's not a good look. But
yeah, it's a lot of stuff there, and I will agree. Watching it, my roommate Eliza pointed out a lot of the inaccuracies, And I did see some of the cliches, but I haven't seen as many sports films. I've seen a few, but like, to me, emotionally, in terms of that level, it stands out. But despite the Hollywoodification, despite some of the inaccuracies, I think it stands out because the struggles should be heard. Trudy really is important because she was one of the first women to break down a lot of these barriers when it comes to these sort of things, and a lot of the points to the story do hold up. I think a good story, regardless of whether or not it's fully telling the truth, is worth seeing and then finding the truth out and then researching for yourself. That's personally how I feel, but I know you guys have a little bit of different opinion in that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see your point of view. I mean, this is definitely an inspirational story, especially for women who are trying to get into and excel at sports, especially ones that are mostly male dominated. It's not easy, and you always need someone like that to see, what it took for them to get to the level they were at. So, seeing that what she went through, having to swim all that, the rough waters, the jellyfish, the darkness, the ice cold, like, that was extreme, and she should have died several times, but she didn't. So, and I know by today's standards that swimming the channel is not as big a deal, but even then, like, I myself swim. There's no way I'd be able to swim that. So I give huge kudos to anybody that can, for certain.
Yeah. Doug, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, just because this and the one I put at number 3, I have them basically as the middle. They're on the good side of the list, so there's quite a drop off with my number 5 and 6. Because this one, like I said, the movie is shot very well. Everything's good about it. The acting's great. I love actually the kid actress for Trudy when she's like, I don't like obnoxious characters, but when she's like constantly singing Ain't We Got Fun just to like piss everybody off until they finally relent and let her swim, I was laughing my ass off. I thought,
at first I was like, wait,
so
what is she?
I am so great. Everybody loves me. I am so great.
But yeah,
I didn't get what she was doing at first, but then when I realized, I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, no, and I mean, definitely, I know you personally connect to it a lot more. I understand that. But I just, I didn't feel quite as connected, but I definitely get where you're coming from. I get the message of the film. So, like I said, it's not really, that I disliked it or anything. I think I just liked what I liked more.
Yeah, I think personally what I connected with is, trans women right now are going through quite a struggle. And while it's not exactly the same thing, this hit home to me for those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that being said, I think it's time for us to move on to the next film, which was the first theatrical film, Inside Out 2. And this was one that I really, really wanted to see. And I was a little bit late to the party, but I actually got to see everything in theaters this year. So thankfully, we were able to do that, and I got to see Inside Out 2. I'm glad I saw it. Had a lot of fun with it. I do have problems. So personally, I put Inside Out 2 at number 3.
It's my number 2.
It's also my number 2.
Right now, Inside Out was one of my favorite movies of all time. Inside Out is emotional, it's moving, it is inspirational, and it tells us a lot about the mindset of people growing up. It was mostly about like moving and dealing with adolescence and what comes with that. Inside Out 2 deals with puberty, and this is a big thing, and I feel like it tells us that, we don't always have to listen to every emotion. Inside Out 1 says that every emotion is important. Inside Out 2 says that yes, every emotion is important, but too much of one emotion is toxic. And I think that's important. I think this film is important. The big problem I have is it hit a little too hard. And there are also points that are very, I don't like using the word cringe, but it was very cringe. Like, and I say it not as, people say it as a buzzword. I mean, I had to wince while watching it because I witnessed a lot of it. And also, a lot of people praise the panic attack in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This was the most real panic attack that I've ever seen in film. And the problem with that is that I also had a mini panic attack watching it. It's not
Cheetos.
a bad... say that again?
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah. Like, this is not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. But in order to watch it, I have to mentally prepare myself, emotionally prepare myself. Inside Out, yeah, it'll still make me sob. Inside Out 2 destroyed me, and I feel like it is too emotionally draining for me to put it above the first film. Plus, I didn't like Pouchy. Pouchy was a little bit much for me, I'm gonna be honest.
How dare you, miss?
How do you not like Pouchy?
Oh, Pouchy!
Oh, God, that was... Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, as I said, this, much like Kat, this is my number 2. Obviously, the number 1 was the obvious, but this one, I think, it loses some points because I think I like the first movie a little better. Also, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff kind of drags it down a bit, too. But on the whole, this was still a very competently made film. It's still, very much up there. And yeah, I think we all resonate, especially with the panic attack. It's like, that felt very real. And the fact that, they actually did their research and, talked with, teenage girls, had them consult on it, to see, hey, have them say, hey, this is how a teenage girl would act. This is how we would act, no, we wouldn't act that way. So, there is that realism to it. I don't know. I definitely like the fact that, where the first movie really just focused on joy and sadness and the other characters kind of fell to the background. This time it was kind of the opposite, where Joy goes on an adventure with anger, disgust, and fear, and Joy kind of takes sadness takes a back seat. So for that much I appreciate. I definitely enjoyed some of the the vault with Ron Funches as the Bluefy character. I thought he was so much fun.
I like the Final Fantasy character. He was great.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I'm my deep, dark secret. And it's just like, I'm the dark, depressed person who has a horrible attack. I love it. I love it.
He turns into Sonic the Hedgehog.
I feel there were some things that were a little on the disconnected side. I felt like they introduced all these new characters who kind of didn't really get to do much, especially with, the new emotions, and they're kind of more of the same. It's really just anxiety that's, the main focus of everything.
They could have definitely used a little bit more cohesion. I felt like the middle was a little bit disconnected from where things were going. I like the journey that they're going on. I felt like ennui was just kind of there. Envy and anxiety ran the show, and I do like embarrassment a lot. But when you really boil down to it, this is a film about anxiety. At the same time, I love that they focus on joy and how horrible a struggle it is to just be happy all the time. And that hit very close to home, but not in a bad way. When Joy broke down and said, of course I'm delusional. I'm happy all the time and you people are always being negative. And like, that hit home. There's a lot of this film that I really think is fantastic. I just feel maybe it needed another pass for me to say it was as good as the original. There was a couple plot threads that just did not go where I wanted it to go. I get that the teenage plot was realistic. I was like, it's hard to watch as a person who's been through this and not yell at the screen saying, no, don't do this. There are some things that I just feel like I look back to myself as a teenager and I feel like, man, this is what I did and I don't want to see it again. Kat?
No, I agree, but that kind of what makes it, like, realistic is how absolute cringe it is, because think about it, they're all 13-year-olds. As 13-year-olds, we do excessively cringe stuff. Like,
True,
that's a
true.
given. Yeah, and, again, this is all, like, about triggering her anxieties, doing stuff without really meaning to. That's where, embarrassment and envy and ennui comes in and stuff. And I also love ennui, by the way. I don't know why. I just love how aloof she is and just, like, how bored and everything. That's just my personal taste.
Wee.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the problem with anxiety is, like, at the moment you're thinking that it's a good idea, it's, the only way to, like, fix things, but it ends up making it 10 times worse. Like, that's how it works. And, yeah, the fact that, like, Joy is just dismissing a lot of that and, like, is acting so out of touch is really frustrating. And I feel like she kind of learns the same lessons she did in the first Inside Out movie, but... I mean, this is more appropriate because, again, Raleigh is older, she has different tastes, different interactions with people and stuff, different problems, so, like, it's way more relatable in that sense. But, again, it, like, seeing the certain things that she does, like, yeah. Exactly, Remy, that's what I was saying.
That's what I said, too, Remy. Good job. Like, this is not a bad film. This is nearly on par with the first, but there's just a couple things that brought it down for me, and I would say that while it is a necessary viewing for any Disney fan, especially if you loved the first one, go in and mentally prepare yourself, because if you're an adult or you're a teenager, this is going to hit you hard, and you're going to see yourself in these characters, and they do a great job with that. I wish I didn't have a panic attack from the movie because that panic attack was so real. It just like, I love seeing it. Just go in with the mindset that this is going to mess you up a little bit. Anything to add to that, Doug?
Pixar, the bully, once again, punches you in the gut, takes your money, and leaves you crying.
Anything to add, Kat, before I move on?
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, because, like, the reason, like, I can see your reasoning, because that's part of the reason why I gave, like, certain movies in the past lower ratings, like Coco. It's like, I love Coco, I think it's a masterpiece, but by virtue of the fact that it always makes me cry, that's why I kind of hate it too, and it makes it hard to watch, so I can sort of see the association with this as well. But regardless, I still think it's a fantastic film. Like, it took 9 years, but it was well worth the wait, and I kind of do hope that they either do a mini-series or another sequel with this, because, again, there's so much potential. And by the way, I did see Dream Productions, that little spin-off mini-sode they did of this. It actually is pretty good, and I do recommend watching it.
I definitely want to see that. We started watching a little bit of, like, the side Pixar productions the other day, but, like, I haven't seen this. I definitely am looking forward to that. With that being said, why must I be cursed to feel these emotions? I wish I could punch my emotions in the gut.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
This was the first one that really hit me so hard that I legitimately was like, okay, I don't know how I can rank this. I want to love this, but I can't, and it's hard for me.
I think we all have that one Pixar movie that hit us a little too close to home. Like, for you, it's this. For me, Onward really, triggered me.
Yeah, like, there's always that one.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the main event. We all knew this was coming, but in the midnight hour, like a little prayer, we're all gonna take you there. Let's talk about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Woo! Number one,
Number
baby!
one.
Number one. We were unanimous in agreement.
How can we not be? I mean,
Yeah.
this is the epitome of what us Marvel fans have been waiting for. Like, come on.
Finally, we get to see the yellow costume. Finally, we get to see every version of Deadpool. Like, there's a lot to love. I will say this. The one thing that does hold it back a little bit for me, and it might be a deal breaker for some, and might not. I don't think it really holds it back for the film a lot. When creating this film, they had another film in mind as canon. They were producing X-Force as a film. Ryan Reynolds had produced it, and it just did not see the light of day. And in his mind, X-Force exists before this point. But the way this film starts, I had a little bit of a problem understanding why Deadpool, after the first film and the second film, feels worthless, and what happened with X-Force and a few other things. It's not a deal breaker, because they get into the action well, they set it up well, but there's just this little disconnect that I have, and I feel like we should get an X-Force movie at some point. With that being said, this is fantastic. Kat, take it away.
Oh, man. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I was amused by X-Force in the second movie, but that doesn't hold a candle to this. We finally get the team up of Deadpool and Wolverine. Wolverine being played by Hugh Jackman. His first appearance since he died in Logan. Spoilers, sorry. But,
well,
yeah.
They resurrect his corpse.
Sort of. They dig up his corpse. And then they fight with his corpse.
to
dance.
bye will never be the same again. And oh my god, I saw the actor that they actually got to do the dance. That wasn't Ryan Reynolds. He can do many things, he can't dance. But that's equal
by his own admission.
But yeah, this was the ultimate team up, because, again, like, we were wondering for so long, how the hell are they going to get Deadpool into the MCU now that Disney has officially purchased Fox? Because, you know, Deadpool doesn't exactly fit with a lot of the more wholesome MCU. But by God, did they make it work, and then some. But unfortunately, that involved having to intermingle a bunch of continuity from the MCU in order for all this to make sense. And how did they do that? The TVA. So, here's the thing. You absolutely have to watch the Loki series in order to get what's going on with Deadpool. Like, because otherwise you will be confused about all this. I know the multiverse is now a thing, so there's other ways they could have done it, but yeah, that's the big thing, is the TVA, and them going into the Void, and in the Void is where they see all of the cameos. People we thought long gone who had only appeared in the past Fox movies and would never show up again. But boy, howdy do they.
They're alive. One thing I will say, this film has probably the most homework out of anything, and that I would dock it a little bit, but I mean, I've seen Loki. I know kind of going in what the impetus of this was. But this film did something for me that I didn't think would be possible. It made me want to go back and rewatch what I call the Foxverse. All of the films from Marvel that were produced by Fox, or nearly Fox. Like, not Sony, not, the main MCU, but just these films from X-Men, Blade, Fantastic Four, all of this stuff. Simply because this film pays tribute to this era of film, and it shows that these stories do indeed matter. What really got me at the end, there's a mid-credits bit where they showcase all of the behind-the-scenes making of these films, and regardless of how you feel about some films, and we've been watching some of them, and some of them are stinkers, like The Last Stand, Blade Trinity, and Elektra.
Wolverine Origins.
All stinkers. but they had so much fun making these films, and seeing this tribute and all of this revelation, like not revelation, all this dedication, made me see things in a new light. Regardless of the studios behind the scenes, these people really did want to make good films, and seeing how reverent they were towards these franchises, saying that yes, you may have ended in a bad way, but you still matter. Gambit, you didn't get a film with this character, but you matter. Your stories matter. We're going to give them an ending. We're going to give them a send-off. I think that's important. Doug?
Yes, absolutely. For those of you who, love that universe of the Fox, Marvel, characters, it's definitely, it's pandering, but in the best possible way. I love that, they bring back Chris Evans to, even though he's already, redeemed himself as Captain America, they basically have him come back to play Johnny Storm, the Human Torch again. This movie especially gets the best points because we finally get Gambit, the real portrayal of Gambit as he should be on the big screen, rather than, whatever Wolverine Origins was.
That wasn't Gambit.
Finally Channing Tatum gets to play him.
Channing Tatum actually has a great accent, because he has a natural accent, and
ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself. Yeah, and
this is fantastic.
Especially, contributing to the year of Gambit, where we had, the X-Men 97 series, which is so good. Go see it.
I still need to see it. We're going to eventually.
See it. Yeah, we rewatched the entire old X-Men animated series in preparation for it, and it lived up to the hype. I mean, just honestly, just about everything Marvel this year lived up to hype. Even, the stuff that didn't have a lot of hype around it. With the exception of maybe What If. But in any case, it was just so good. And, like I said, the fact that we got the year of Gambit to the point where it made us decide to name our daughter Remy. But
she's stuck with a nerd name forever now.
And of
nerds!
Course,
you're all nerds.
It finally, we've had some instances of crossover with varying cameos, in Doctor Strange or in Captain Marvel, where they kind of snuck in some of the characters in, but this one finally delivered. It's it's officially crossed over. We are now, connected the two universes.
And it's great.
And I think everybody saw this movie.
Yes, this was the number one film of the year.
I people. I didn't even think watch superhero movies. I was hearing them watch that they saw it, and everybody enjoyed it. And I remember we went to Kat's cousin's birthday party. Every single person at the party had seen it, and we were all just raving about it.
Yeah, I was, shocked that some of the people I knew had seen it, but, with a movie this big, you can't help it. I mean, this is not only just a tribute to Marvel, it's a tribute to, the Fox films that we initially grew up with before the MCU took over everything. And, it brings back so many memories, seeing Blade there, one of the first, big superheroes on the big screen, who now currently holds the record for, for being that character the longest, right after Hugh Jackman. I love how technically, too, with his appearance, because think about it, he's the only character not owned by like Fox or Disney. He's actually owned by Warner Brothers, which technically makes this a Disney Warner crossover. So it's almost Roger Rabbit like. But it was great seeing him again. Like, Elektra, I could take it or leave it. Gambit was like, holy crap, that actually happened. But then, like, seeing everybody else in the Void and stuff, it's like, wow. And then seeing all the Deadpools on top of it, like, that was amazing.
Oh, yeah. You said every single Deadpool was in this, but I didn't see Gwenpool 0 out of 10.
Gwenpool will have her shot, but I haven't actually seen much of Gwenpool. A very, very different character, because not related to Deadpool at all. Even with that being said, one thing I think it resonated with me, even beyond like Wesley Snipes delivering a fantastic performance, seeing all these characters again, this is one of the best shot and scored films, because there are so many sequences that we can talk about and discuss and break down like a prayer. And I don't want the world to see me. The sequence where they fight every single Deadpool. There's so many really amazing, fantastic moments. And while I didn't really care as much for the villain, it didn't really matter because there were stakes and I cared about this cast. Seeing Hugh Jackman act his ass off in a lot of these emotional scenes. The car scene, oh my god, like, so
Best
many...
use of product placement. Buy Honda Odyssey, people.
Let's destroy a Honda Odyssey, and we're like, oh, okay, so the Odyssey is better. Like, seeing Paul again, or no, not Paul, Peter, sorry. Seeing Peter again, like, there are so many big moments in this film. I have problems with it. They don't matter. This film is fantastic. Kat, any final thoughts?
Dogpool. She's adorable. She is ugly and adorable.
Doug?
But seriously. No, seriously. Yeah, I was just blown away by this. And here's the thing, my dad saw it at a separate time that I did, and he was laughing his ass off, and my siblings looked at him like he was crazy. But, yeah. I just was, like, astounded they pulled off as much as it did. Like, fun fact, the whole, Like a Prayer scene, apparently Ryan Reynolds had been wanting to do that for the longest time, and in order to get it done, he actually went to Madonna personally to convince her to lend the rights, because she very rarely lends the rights to her song to be used in movies or commercials. It helped that her son was a fan of Deadpool, but also she made a suggestion to make that fight scene better, which Ryan Reynolds went with, and yes, it made things so much better. So yeah, knowing that this has been years in the making makes it that much better. And I get it. You're basically watching a bunch of immortals fighting, so there's really no real consequence, but that doesn't make it any less fun. And that's what this movie is. Just good, gory fun. This is pure, unadulterated fun. It's everything you wanted out of a crossover film and more. Is it perfect? No. It has some glaring problems, but anyone who's ever been a fan of comic books, anyone who's a fan of X-Men, Deadpool, Marvel, the history of the Foxverse, you can get a lot out of this film. Doug, any final thoughts?
I gotta say also, I love how they both respect the ending of Logan, but also trample all over it by, the fact that they keep that version of Logan, of Wolverine, dead, but desecrate the hell out of his corpse in the very beginning of it. And then going into the different universes of, the different, they finally make the most of the multiverse in this by going through every different variation of Wolverine. And
the
including the freaking cavalry.
His best role to date.
So it's this was the best instance of, having your cake and eating it too. It's yes, we'll get oh my god, Hugh Jackman in to reprise the role, but we will, keep the original version dead. So I'm very, very happy with what we got, and it's the road to, getting Deadpool and Wolverine was very long. It's like this almost didn't happen. Because it's like, originally, I think they wanted to do like a Deadpool 3 with like Christmas theme, whatever.
They wanted
that got axed.
They wanted to do X-Force and a few other things. It's just like,
and then like Disney had to take over Fox, and then they didn't want to use Deadpool, but okay, no, they'll use Deadpool, but they don't want to make it R. Then they relent and make it R. And it's like, and then the pandemic happens, and but it finally happened, and it was so worth the wait.
This film had a lot of setbacks, and it could have been way worse than it was. I think this is the best Deadpool film, and it is worth everyone's watches. We could talk about this for a very long time, but we have to move on, unfortunately. Deadpool and Wolverine, not perfect, very much worthy of your time, despite
as close
a
to
lot of
perfect
the
as
setbacks.
you can get, though.
Yeah, it's as perfect as you can get, given the situation. Very, very good. All right. Now we're going to get to one that I haven't really discussed yet, since it wasn't on my list of films here. When I went to look at my release dates, it didn't put this on there. This is the other Disney Plus film. It was technically the first of the year. It's called Out of My Mind, released January 19th, 2024. Now, this I didn't hear about until I actually watched Young Woman in the Sea, because they're only advertising it on the Disney Plus originals, which is very bad advertising. But this was actually a really good film. For a Disney Plus original, I think it was one of the top. I put it at number 4, and I have a reason for this, but what do you think?
I put it at my number 3.
I also put it at my number 3.
Out of My Mind is a great film. It is a film that talks about cerebral palsy, and it deals with a lot of issues about prejudice against disabled people, and so much people making the wrong calls, all this other stuff. It is based on a book. It's a very good film. I think everyone should see it. I honestly think for people, for us now struggling with disabled rights, it is a must-see. But it has a bigger caveat than Inside Out 2, because this was so frustrating to watch. I am disabled. I am mentally and physically disabled. And I deal with a lot of some of this stuff in my everyday life. Being treated like I'm not capable, being treated like I'm not the one in charge, being treated that I'm going to fall apart at any moment, and people making the wrong call every single step of the way. And it was frustrating seeing this, seeing the prejudice, seeing the parents, even the teacher. There are so many struggles that the main character deals with that I related so hard to. And me and Eliza had to stop this film many times simply because it hits so close to home. And it's not that it's a bad film, it's just a very hard watch because you don't want to know what's coming. You're like, oh, I know what's coming. I know what's coming with the teacher. I know what's coming with the friend. And you hope it doesn't happen, and it does. Kat?
Yeah, you pretty much summed up the movie in one word, and that's frustrating. That's not to say it's bad. It definitely is a good film, but like, if you ever wanted to know what it's like to be stuck in a wheelchair, to be nonverbal, to like literally have nobody listen to you, like, this is the movie to watch, because it makes it feel so real. Because here's the thing that I've always found annoying about films that make a disabled character their lead, is that they're not actually the lead. because a lot of the time the focus and the inner narration and basically the real star is the person that's taking care of them, whether they be a family member, a relative, just a general caretaker. It's always from their point of view as to like what this person is going through and everything, but you don't actually get their point of view. And I can't stand that because it really like minimizes what the person with the disability is going through. It's putting more emphasis on, oh, that poor person taking care of them. They have to go through so much. It's like, no, you don't watch the film for that. You watch the film to see what the person with a disability is going through. And that is what this film does really, really well, because the narration comes directly from the character Melody herself. Because, yes, she has cerebral palsy, and she's on the spectrum where she cannot walk and she cannot speak. But she is actually highly intelligent. She is actually a highly intelligent 12-year-old girl. She could excel in a regular high school classroom, and that's where she goes in the film as part of a program. The problem is, because of the way the school is set up, because of the ableist attitudes that the teachers and students have toward her, because of a lot of stupid stuff, she struggles to fit in. And she goes through great lengths in order to get one of those telecomputers in order to speak for herself. So she can actually, participate and tell everyone what she's thinking, and then do things like making friends and going out and everything. And you see her go so far, and yet everything keeps trying to get in her way and bring her down. Like I said, it's the epitome of frustrating, but it does it so very well. Like, I was genuinely impressed by how well they portrayed it in this film.
Yes, and like, I'm going to say right now, they portray this so well. It is done with such nuance, and you see that, while there's characters who belittle her, it's usually via societal pressure. They have such great characters. Like, there's his next door neighbor who is just like, never let anyone tell you what you can and can't do. And she's one of the highlights of the film for me, where she's this older lady and one of those like 80s, like clearly like, I'm trying to put it in the way, because it's obviously she's not from the 80s, but like she has this 80s mindset where she like jazzercises and she's like out there, but she respects her so much to the point where she's just like, you're in charge, you tell your parents what you can and can't do. And like, I love this character. Everyone in this film makes mistakes except for her, and she's the highlight. Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for the neighbor, her big quote was, just because people wipe your ass doesn't mean that you have to kiss theirs. Which,
yes.
Yeah. Where I would say that, like I said, with this and, Lady in the Sea, it's like, yes, they're very much similar in, fighting adversity, but I think what raises this, what elevated this to my number 3 was Trudy is able to, speak, and she's able to fight for what she wants, whereas Melody has no voice. Literally. Like, it takes for us to hear, what's in her mind, to put us in her perspective, to, understand really what's going on. And, it's very much, it's such a real struggle too, because again, the disabled community is so criminally overlooked. It's just amazing how, easy it is for them to just fall right through the cracks. For the education system to just completely fail them. Just like the most minimal, effort is just not taken because nobody really cares at all.
Yeah, there's a care worker in this film who is one of the other greatest characters, who says she's going to start a thesis for her paper, schools fail people, not like schools are the problem. Like the schools are what held them back, like the prejudices. And it's like, it's not disabilities that held people back, it's schools. And I love that they touch upon it such a way. And she's like, if I had people not listen to me my whole life, I would punch them. And they deal with it in a very interesting way. And it builds to a great point where she eventually takes a stand and says, like, you left me out. You excluded me. Well, no longer, I'm here to stay. I don't care what the school says. And it is a tough movie to sit through because, again, I've been through some of this stuff before. I've dealt with people who underestimate me and treat me like I don't matter or I'm not part of the group or are befriend me out of pity. And that is so frustrating to watch, but it's so good to see at the end how she takes her own voice and takes charge, and seeing how we can change this if we stop the prejudice at the top, belittling those who have disabilities but still can contribute to society. And it's a frustrating film, but I love it, Kat.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like, this is very familiar to me because I have two autistic siblings. They're high functioning, but I remember when they went to the same elementary school as me, how tough it was to get them, proper help, because they were basically lumped in with other kids that had way more severe conditions than they did. So because of that, they all basically learned the same thing and weren't actually taught like what all the other kids were learning. They were basically kept at a low level for the sake of everyone else that wasn't as high functioning. And I remember just how frustrating my siblings were during that whole time. And it's part of the reason why my parents eventually sent them to a different school that actually taught a wide spectrum of people who had the disabilities. And it sucks that you have to go to a separate facility just to get that sort of aid, and how sometimes people can't even get that. Like, I remember them saying how in the movie, them showing in the movie how the classroom for the special ed kids, they were in a trailer on the school grounds. They weren't actually part of the school. And that's a thing, unfortunately, with a lot of places. They will usually keep those kids out of sight. I remember in my elementary school, it was 3 stories high. They always kept the special ed kids on the top level, all the way in the back, furthest away from everybody else, which I thought was kind of weird considering some of the kids in that class had mobility issues and there was no elevator. I would actually see the aides, like, actually carry them up and down the stairs, which, nowadays that wouldn't fly for certain. But yeah, just to see that, and then see them in the classroom, and then the kids making all that horrible commentary. And granted, this is realistic because even though we see a point where Melody actually wins the whole trivia thing, you would think by Hollywood standards, oh, suddenly she's liked and adored by everybody. No, that's not the case. They still don't like her. They still would rather not keep her around, even though she single-handedly won them, first place. Mm-hmm. They continue to just disregard her, and it's so real, and it just, it's heartbreaking, too. She just wants to belong, and she just wants to have friends. And I will say, one of the friends she makes, Rose, on the one hand, yes, Rose does end up being one of those kids by the end. But at the same time, I kind of do sympathize with her, too, because I was in that same position where my mom would make me hang out with kids with disability that were in my siblings' class. And being made to hang out with someone because your parents said so will always leave that bad taste in your mouth. And it's you don't want to be that jerk who says, no, I don't want to hang out with them. But at the same time, you're struggling to, like them on a sincere level. So I kind of really did sympathize with her a lot in that. And I still don't think what she did by the end was right though.
What she did wasn't right, but it's clear throughout the film that she does care about her, And the way it ends is ambiguous as to whether they remain friends. But there are moments between them that are genuine to make me believe that that wasn't her parents making her like her. Like, one sequence that I love is, like, she said, "You said I was suffering from cerebral palsy." No, I'm not suffering. And then, like, you see her reaction, and it's just like, clearly she's trying to understand it. And I think that's something that the other kids don't do.
Yeah, it's for certain. But then again, they're 12-year-olds. And I hate to say it, but that's what 12-year-olds are like. They will look for any little thing that makes you different, or is like, will make it easy to make fun of you, and they will latch on to that and use that as a reason to ostracize you. Like, that's just how society is, unfortunately. Like, yes, you'll have some good people if you're lucky, but let's face it, especially in today's reality, for, with wokeness being such, like, a stigmatized thing, and people, like, throwing an upheaval for trying to treat each other with like, empathy and stuff. Yeah, it's become all the more harder to dissuade that type of behavior in kids.
It's very hard, especially because people are like, oh, don't be empathetic. Don't, like, no, we should all care about each other. That's the human condition. We are here to help each other. If we're only out for ourselves, no one is going to get anything. Anyway, final thoughts, Doug.
It kills me, especially, the fact that this really hammers home just how people don't want to give you any sort of accommodation, even if it's detrimental. They see it as a handout, that you're getting the unfair advantage. When in this circumstance, it's the accommodations that you need just to be on something resembling the same level as a normally functioning person. Really, I feel that so much. And I am somebody who, I had ADHD and autism, diagnosis back when I was a kid. And I had to get, special stuff. And I know how much my parents had to fight for that. And my mom is a speech language pathologist. She works with, people with, disabilities, with, social issues, with, varying degrees of vocal disability. And I know how much she hates how the educational system just does not really help them. I know she will tell you a thing or two about No Child Left Behind. I also want to say, like, the fact that Melody just wanted to, participate in this, quiz, club, and, that they were so much exclusionary, toward her, that, in order to get in, she had to basically kick out the person that was supposed to be her friend. And she didn't even want to say, when she didn't get it, she didn't want to raise a fuss because she was afraid that, that meant that she was going to hurt her friend. And then it's like her parents just don't listen to her, and they force their way into it. And she does get what she wants, but, you do see that what she feared did happen. And when Rose said that she only hung out with Melody because her parents were promising her an iPod, that was just a dagger in my heart. I know, like, it's asking a lot to, force a person into that uncomfortable space. It's like, I'm not all that comfortable, being, forced to be around disabled people, but that's more because of my social anxiety than, I realize that disabled people are still people, even if, they can't do necessarily the same things as we do, but they want to. And they just want to be normal. And it really hurt a lot of times. Like, I'm with you on how difficult this movie could be to watch.
This film hit home. Like I said, I'm neurodivergent. I have physical and mental disabilities. And it's like, to be treated like someone else and to have accommodations so you can be like someone else, it's hard enough for me to work. To get through certain things, and I've gotten a lot better as time has gone on. But, like, I feel every single segment of this film, and it's hard. It is so hard, and it's like, they don't want to give you that accommodations. They don't want to do that, and it's like, I just want to be able to live. It's a tough film. Alright, let's move on. This was a tough one. This is a great film. Everyone should see it, but it's very tough to watch. Moving on, we have another film that we're kind of divided on. Moana 2. Moana 2, I put it at number 5.
Number 6.
Number 6, dead last.
Watching this in theaters, I had a lot of fun. I did not know that this was originally supposed to be a TV series, and I didn't initially see it that way. Looking at it now, I can kind of see it, and there's some things that I wish were handled differently. I don't think it's a perfect film, but I think a lot of the hate is blown out of proportion. Personally, I get the detriment. It is not as good as the first film, but it deals with different things. And I think the stakes here are not about saving the world. They're a lot more personal. It's personal stakes of, hey, Moana needs to lead the next generation. She doesn't want to let them down. She doesn't want to go out there and die like her ancestors and leave her little sister with nothing. I think that's important stakes. Are they as big as saving the world? Are they as immediate as saving the world? No, but they're different, and I can really get behind it because I have siblings who, I'm a younger sibling. If my older sibling were to go out and something were to happen to them, that would negatively affect me. But there are problems. The songs are not great. There's nothing that's on the same level as the first film in terms of songs. I do like the animation, but I do see a little bit of the choppiness. I just don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. And I know I'm in the minority. What do you think, Kat?
So before I found out about the behind the scenes stuff, and I saw this initially going in blind, I just thought it was passable. It was average at best, because it was nowhere near as good as the first one. Animation wise, yeah, I can see, but in terms of the story, in terms of the music, just in general, it was unimpressive. There was a lot of things I thought were being built up. I thought it was going to go in a specific direction, and it just doesn't. And I wasn't expecting it to be a cliffhanger, that we're basically getting a Moana 3. Again, spoilers, yeah, it sort of end that way. But when I looked at it again, and then I had the context behind the scene, it just made everything feel so much worse. Because, again, the story for this is that, like you said, this was supposed to be a straight-to-streaming TV series. And you could tell that they had to chop up a lot of what was supposed to be in it. They had to take out a lot. They had to basically make this in a cohesive 2.5-hour movie. And I do not think they did a good job in the least. Because Moana has no real motivation for doing this other than the vague vision that, this will destroy the world one day possibly because, even though everything is cool right now. And then she brings along these people to help her on her quest that we never met before, who get no real development, and some of which have no business being in the water. And then we encounter Maui, who really has no business being in this movie, because again, his whole purpose in the last one was fulfilled, so he has no real goal other than helping Moana. And then this whole big bad guy is being built up, who we never see until a freaking post-credits scene.
Okay, that I'll agree with you on. Not seeing him throughout the film, I thought he was destroyed because there's a big thundercloud. They should have had him in the film.
Yeah, like my point being is that it builds up a lot, and there's like almost no payoff whatsoever. Because and it sucks because this could have had such great potential as a TV series, and I can see why they did it, because this happened because of a few reasons. One was because of the writer's strike, and that pretty much ruined a lot of Disney's plans, and they lost a lot of money the previous year. Like I said, the only movie that was a hit the previous year was Guardians of the Galaxy. But everything else, especially the new stuff, sorely underperformed. So naturally, they were banking on their already established movies and the sequels making bank. Hence why the only thing we got this year was basically sequels, or prequels, or whatever. But yeah, that's why they made this studio animation in Canada basically overhaul everything, work overtime to make what was supposed to be a TV series into movie quality. And they succeeded to the best of their ability, God bless them, but the problem was Disney didn't pay them properly. They paid them the wages they agreed upon as TV animators. They did not pay them the level of movie animators. And that is a significant difference, especially for the amount of work they had to do. And that to me is just so messed up. Because this movie made money. It made a shit ton of money. They could have easily compensated all of the animators that worked on this. And they just didn't. And you expect them to do a Moana 3? Are you kidding me? The whole thing just leaves a bad taste in my mouth as far as this movie's concerned. Putting aside the whole fact that, again, it was mediocre at best.
Now, on my front, I will say this much. I think, going into it, I didn't know about the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I think the animators brought it up to movie quality. Are there some problems with the animation here and there? Yeah. But the fact that they didn't pay them enough. They crunched them, didn't pay him enough. That is horrible. I didn't know it going in, and that does leave a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like the crux of this film is about uniting peoples. And to an extent, I feel like that's a good motivation, because having something in the middle of the ocean that divides everyone, seeing them at the end actually bring all these different tribes together, that's palpable to me. Seeing Moana being turned into a demigod, I know a lot of people don't really gel with that, but I think that works because Maui died and was brought back as a demigod. That actually happened for Maui, so I can get behind that.
Can we discuss real quick how stupid that was?
I mean, we can, yeah.
The fact that, I can buy that, they made Moana a demigoddess. She goes through a whole trial and everything. She takes on a god, she dies, and then she's brought back and is basically immortal. I mean, I've seen this before. It kind of makes sense. In fact, when you think about it, that's exactly what happened in Hercules.
Yes.
Beat for beat. But the thing is, the fact that they had Maui, first he had a fake out death. And
which
then
was undeserved.
And then he gives up his immortality to bring back Moana. So you think he's going to be human, but no, they give him his immortality back. So it's like he kind of had a second fake out. I'm like, what was even the point?
That I will agree with you. That I will agree with you. It's
sure going to be hard to, isn't it going to be hard for Maui to live as a mortal? Actually, it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience. Oh, really?
They shouldn't have had either of those sequences. The sequence itself where Moana dies and is brought back by her ancestors, that hit me. The stuff with Maui, badly handled. And now that I'm looking back, I do think that Maui should not have even been in this picture. If it's about having humanity stand on their own, he shouldn't have been in the picture, and that I will agree with you on. I feel like there are some parts that I really like. It's just really held back by certain things that, I do agree with you on. I like the Kakamura. I do like some of the new characters. Do they add much? Not really. I like the boat right. The shipwright was actually a good thing to bring along. But like having an old man for agriculture, they could have had anyone else for agriculture, to be honest.
And he didn't even swim. Why would you bring someone that doesn't swim? Like, it's bad enough she brings 2 animals that would easily drown in the ocean, but yeah, she brings an old man who doesn't know how to swim. Just because he happens to know how to grow food.
And then there's the other guy who I did like because he knows a lot about Maui, but like, there's not really too much for him to do with. I can see in a TV show this working much better. I don't think it really was a huge detriment, but when you're looking at it after the fact, in hindsight, there's a lot of these little things you do notice. And I didn't hate the film, but it was mediocre. And
here's the thing when you think about it, those 3 new characters, they're the same new characters that we met in Lightyear, when you think about it. Like the 3 recruits, the same exact archetypes. They basically just renamed them and changed their clothes. Same exact types.
I disagree about one character, because I think the shipwright is different enough, but I will agree with you about the others. I feel like this film, while mediocre and while having stuff behind the scenes that I dislike, is better than Mufasa in a lot of ways. But we haven't let Doug speak. Doug.
So in 2016, I remember going to the theater to see the original Moana. I remember playing my Pokemon Sun on the 3DS, and I was just hitting my second island trial. Had to close up the 3DS when the movie started. I remember just being absolutely blown away by the animation. Just something about it just really popped. The soundtrack by Lin-Manuel Miranda, like, it didn't hit me, as much at first. I thought it was just okay, but the more I listened to it, the more I really got into it. They had a honest to, God villain song, even if the villain's kind of he's just kind of their obstacle, and you had villains. There's a very real threat looming, if Moana doesn't do something, then she's going to, the island's going to decay. Everything's going to decay. So, she has a very real call to action. She goes, all this way only to get defeated. And then her grandmother as a spirit comes back and tells her, that's a lot to put on you. You don't have to continue. But it gives her the strength to keep going. You feel all this, immense emotion for this hero. And, at the end, you have Tamatel on his back, and he's, saying, oh, I bet if I were a Jamaican crab, you'd help me. I loved it. Loved the movie. Absolutely just, had the most fun watching it. And then I, as soon as that happens, I beat my second island trial, which was like all the wiki school. So it's kind of a very apropos thing.
Timing.
Yeah. Yeah. This one, I went in knowing what the deal was, that it was originally supposed to be, a TV show, whatever. I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I just felt nothing. I don't remember any of the, the new characters' names. There's a couple funny jokes, whatever. But, nothing really stuck with me. They have, the basically retreading in a way, the original movie, but like now, like instead of being marooned on an island, Maui's just being held by some Batgirl who may or may not be a villain. Right, Remy? Yeah. It's like And then, yeah, like you have the Kakamori first, but then they kind of get redeemed. Then you have the Bat Lady sing a song, and it's like, eh? Then you have, the fight with the spirit guy. It's like, and then, like, Maui gets hit, and he might have lost his demigod powers and stuff and become mortal. Maybe. I don't know. All his tattoos are gone. And then he saves Moana, but she basically dies. But, it's everything's just quickly wrapped up. Whatever. They're back. She's back. She's got power now or something. I don't know. The end. Just a very, very, vague call to action. And I'm just like, I walked away from it just like, well, I saw that. And then they bring Tamatoa back in and like, oh, I'm so glad to see him. Wait, no, this is just, blah, blah.
Like I said, I can understand why you dislike this film. When I first saw Moana, it was huge for me. I had just started my transition, and it spoke to me on a level that no other film had at the time. Since then, we've had Encanto and a few others have that same level, and I wasn't expecting that from Moana 2. Moana 2 gave me something different. It had a more familial connection, and how she didn't want to let her family down, she didn't want to let her ancestors down, and how when she did die and seeing everyone come back and seeing that your legacy is not over just because of you, it continues on. That to me hit, because my family has always had this huge familial thing of every one of us is important. We have to continue on this legacy. It comes with being Italian. And I get
too true.
I get like not other people will get some of this stuff, and I'm not saying this film is perfect. It's got a lot of bad, but for me, it hit in a different place than the original Moana. Original Moana is a lot better, but I feel like this one hit a place that I liked and that stuck with me. I know a lot of events just kind of come. You have a gathering of people out of nowhere. You have a lot of events that just happen one after another. It's not on par with Moana. But it did hit. And I feel like I have to give it these things because, for me, the familial connection is what mattered. And it was trying to say, you saved the world, now what comes after? What legacy are you going to build? What life are you going to have for the future? I think that's what it's trying to say. And to me, that's important. It's probably not going to be for everyone else. And again, this film has lots of problems. But I think it just resonated with me a lot more. Kat?
I will admit that I actually love the whole relationship between her and her little sister, because I myself have two younger siblings. One of my sisters is actually 14 years younger than me, and I remember, as a teenager, going to pick her up at school and her running toward me with her arms open, the same way her sister does when she returns to the island. Like, that brought back all the memories and all the feels. So that, I think they did a really good job on. And, having just the motivation be to return alive to her sister, it's like, okay, that, I guess, is motivation enough. But, it's not in the same life or death situation as the first movie. So that's the only thing where it falters. But yeah, I can see in that regard, how you can connect with the film. Because I did find myself getting a little teary-eyed when, her sister didn't want her to leave. So she introduces her to the ocean, saying that the ocean will always keep them connected no matter where she goes. Like, I thought that was very, very sweet.
Yeah.
So I will concede to that.
It's just not going to be for everyone. It's not going to be for everyone. I get that.
Yeah, because again, if you don't have that type of relationship, it's hard to sort of sympathize. And again, I feel like this could have been portrayed way better if it was a TV show, because they could have dedicated like a whole episode to it or something. But yeah, as is, I feel like it's just a small little like drop of goodness in an otherwise rather disappointing, mediocre film. One thing that I was really disappointed with was the fact that they built up the Bat Lady to be the new villain, and she ended up not being the villain despite getting a villain song, that was insanely disappointing to me. Because I actually liked her look. I liked her style. I actually thought her song was the best thing. I don't remember a lot of it, other than it reminds me of the song Relax, but, you know,
It's a
I
great
thought she
song.
had
It's probably the song of the film. It's just like, I feel like they could have done the swerve at the end.
Yeah, because like they were doing so well. It's like you see she's tricking Moana into trusting her, into like believing that she has the answer, that she's, you know, totally not leading her into a trap or anything. Like, I thought it was pretty good how they built her up, but then they go in the direction of, oh, well, I'm actually trapped here by order of the gods. There's nothing I can do about it. But I can help you a little bit on your quest. I'm like, really? We're getting another sympathetic villain? Like...
I feel like there's elements here that work, and I like her as a character, but not having her bring a threat to them. If they had a fight, if they had wait till the end for the swerve, like, it kind of builds to nothing where Maui is just like, wait, what? Like, I don't really gel with it. I like her style, I like her charisma. I can kind of put past that because her song really carries a large part of the film. Doug?
It's like, yeah, I honestly, like, I could be kinder to this if it was, you know, as, you know, a TV show as intended. But, you know, as a film, it's so condensed to everything and not in, you know, the proper way, that it so leaves me feeling hollow. Like, I don't really have any songs that I can, you know, remember from that. It's like, they're either like hollow, you know, covers of the, you know, songs from the first movie, or they're just, I don't even remember at all. Like, I kind of remember the villain's song, or mainly I remember that the villain had a song, if she even was a villain. And that's about it. But yeah, I'm not going to be buying the soundtrack for certain.
I think there are some songs that do kind of hit, but they're mostly like the send-off song and the villain in the callback at the end. But, like, again, none of it is nearly going on the same level as the original film. But we have been talking about it for quite a while.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay, Disney, I get you had to recoup your losses, but at this cost, and like, great, you made your money back, but you just made something bland and you screwed a bunch of people over. Way to go.
We are on two different wavelengths, but I can see where you guys are coming from. Kat, any final thoughts before we move on to what I consider the worst film?
Yeah, like I said, this is just average. If you want something, like, simple to just take your kids to, just to waste a few hours, by all means. But I can't recommend this movie, because I don't have faith in the direction it's going in, and if they continue to screw over their animators the way they are, I just don't see this being worth the time and money. Because, like, if I had known that was what they were doing, I would not have seen this in theaters. I would have waited till it was on streaming or something, or pirated it or something. Like, I don't condone piracy, but in this case, if you're not going to give the money to your animators, I may as well not even give you my money. So, yeah. We'll see it at your own discretion.
I had a little bit of a better time with it, but had I known the stuff behind the scenes, I probably would have waited myself, and it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. There's a lot of bad stuff. At the same time, for me, it's not Mufasa. Look, I saw both films in theaters. Both had kids. People were walking out of Mufasa. People were actively bored with Mufasa, whereas Moana 2 kept the kids entertained, and that's something that I can say, but Mufasa is bland. There's one good thing I can say about Mufasa. It had the song I Always Wanted a Brother, and that was done by Lin-Manuel Miranda. But a lot of these songs are just bad. Like, you have the villain song where he ends it with, bye-bye. Like, what is this? There's a song in the middle where you have all of them together, and I can never remember it. There's some parts that are good. It just, I don't like any of the direction of Mufasa. The animation is 10 times better. It's more expressive. But it still makes me wonder why they had to do it as a live-action animated project when they could have just had more expressive animation from a 2D animated project. It has a lot of stuff that I don't like. I do think the story with Mufasa being torn between two worlds, losing his family, always yearning for it, but being content to have his brother, to have a family here, even though he was always ostracized and always looking to the horizon. There's stuff with that I liked. It does touch a little bit too much on Simba for my liking, but there's stuff there I liked. I don't like Scar's dad. I don't like that they called him Taka, which means garbage. There's so many things about this film that touch me and color me the wrong way that I had trouble seeing this in theaters. I had the most trouble watching this because I had a connection to Moana 2 despite the badness. I had nothing here, and especially with how they treated Scar and his motivation, and all of that was just bad to me. Doug?
Well, I came in late. When we were seeing this, I had to come from work and go to a theater that was a little farther, so I kind of missed a little bit of the beginning, but I think ultimately I got there when the real story, the real thing started, so I don't think I missed much.
Did you see Milele? Did you see the Milele song or no?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you didn't miss too much.
And you had Keith David in there, and you wasted him.
You wasted Keith David, and Milele was an okay song, but yeah.
Like, I'll say, I there's a lot of me not feeling much, much in the way of the music, much in the way of the characters and stuff. Kat was even commenting that, like, even Timon and Pumbaa were starting to get annoying.
They had Seth Rogen and Timon and Pumbaa back, and they did nothing, and they weren't funny.
But on the other hand, while I do feel there's a lot of nothing like there was in Moana, there were things that did, I did find good about this. I did, for how stupid and, obsessed the villain is, he's still actually a genuinely terrifying villain. Like, and he is he's scary a little bit. And he has a villain song. It's not a very good villain song, but it's a villain song, and I remember it. I felt like there was a nice, connection with, Mufasa and Taka. There's some stuff that's a little far-fetched in terms of, what brings them together. The fact that they're not actually brothers, that, he becomes adopted. That didn't sit right with me. I didn't buy into Taka's heel turn, but when he basically turns full villain, he was acting like Scar. I genuinely okay, I'm watching Scar now. This is exactly how he acts in, all the other movies. So for that much, I'm on board.
It's so bad to me because one, yes, Scar was always he doing things for, he wanted the women lionesses and stuff like that, and he wanted power, but I don't like his reasoning for turning on Mufasa in this, because Mufasa lied specifically for him, did everything for him, and he turned because the woman liked Mufasa instead of him. Like, Sarabi liked him, and all he had was very awkward moments where he tried to bring up flowers, and it was very bad. And the heel turn to Scar when he actually is Scar, fine, that's great. but there's not enough build up to it. There's not enough lead in. It makes no sense why he did it. And then they cover it up where he's saying, like, you can stay here, but you always be known as Scar. And I'm like, he betrayed you. Why would you? If they had gone about it this way, take your time with it, build up to it. Don't have it be about a woman, and have it be where his betrayal is not known.
Yeah,
that would have made more sense.
There's definitely the resentment that he has, from his family kind of favoring Mufasa a little more. But his reasons for turning, I don't in the slightest buy are enough for him to actually want to kill Mufasa.
It's just a lot. Okay, what do you think, Kat?
So yeah, I can totally understand why you would dislike this film. Like, I honestly went into it ready to hate it on principle, because this is not only a prequel to a popular Disney film, it's a live-action prequel. So I knew going in it was going to be bad. Like, I braced myself big time. And unlike Moana, where my expectations were high and then they were sort of dashed and just left me feeling melancholy, with Mufasa, I found myself strangely not hating it as much as I thought. And that's why I put it a little higher. Because here's the thing. There is a surprising amount of lore to The Lion King. Not just the original movie, not just the sequel, not just Lion Guard. There are like online comics. There are like fandoms and stuff who have built up their own canon, their own lore and everything. Like, I've looked at a lot of this stuff. And the fact that the movie, this supposedly piece of shit movie, incorporated so much of that lore into this is honestly kind of impressive. Like, for something that you think is a lazy cash-in, they put a surprising amount of detail in there. It's like, I couldn't help but be impressed. And the thing is, they could have easily, like, gone the same route as a lot of those comics. A lot of the way they tell the story of how, Mufasa and Scar had their falling out, how Scar got his scar, and so on and so forth. But no, they go in a completely different direction. And they try to make it where Mufasa's the one that's the outsider, and he has to earn his title as king. He just doesn't have it on principle. That's right, Remy, definitely. See,
yeah, definitely, Remy.
Yeah, but I was like, kind of impressed too. Like, I get why they did it, because one of the big criticisms I've always seen for Lion King is that it kind of advocates divine right, in that, the lions are meant to rule. They are the ones in charge. They have to, be the big ones. Like, the hyenas are supposed to be the outsiders, and so on and so forth. So, the fact that they have Mufasa himself be the outsider and actually earn his crown, I think, was the big message they were trying to convey. So, I'm not saying that this thing was good by any means. I still thought, I feel the same as you in a lot of the regards. Remy feels that way, too.
Yeah.
Because I did not agree with, how his Scar's heel turned for certain. I hate that it was over a woman, because, again, this is continuity unique to the live action, not the original. I know, Remy, you're getting upset while I'm talking about this. But yeah, I can see what you mean about Scar's origin. Like, that was definitely stupid, because again, that's continuity that only applies to the live-action version of Lion King, not the original animated, because Scar was not in love with Sarabi, that's for damn certain. And the fact that he heel-turned on his brother, all because of a woman, it's like, that is tale as old as time, and that is a lame-ass excuse. Like, especially because he held onto that grudge for years. Like, that is just so stupid. And it's like, he betrayed him to the guy that killed his biological father. On top of it, killed his entire pride. It's like, dude, seriously? You're that butthurt over a woman that you would sell out, like, to the guy that murdered your entire family? That is so dumb. And, like, trust me, I've seen a lot of origins of how Scar got his scar, some of which are really, really dumb. This has got to be the dumbest, though, for certain.
There's just a lot of dumb here. There's a lot of dumb in his motivation. There's a lot of dumb in he did all this for a woman, especially this guy murdered your dad. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we're really I would not take as good motivations, even in a good film. And just here, they bring everything down. I already didn't like a lot of the Lion King live action. Mufasa, there's only a couple things that I really liked, and I always wanted a brother is the only thing that really stuck with me. I don't know, Kat, anything to add to that?
Yeah, fun fact, like, the reason Lin-Manuel Miranda didn't do the songs for Moana is because he was doing the songs for Mufasa, which I kind of find hilarious. But then again, it wasn't his fault, because, again, he didn't know that they were doing, like, the TV show turned movie, and he just finished Encanto, so he really had no choice.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Doug?
I just want to say, like, in terms of the heel turn that we were talking about, I always kind of thought that Scar, at least in the animated film, was coded gay. I know it's not explicitly said, but, he always comes off as kind of slightly effeminate in a way, even though,
He's very foppish.
yeah. Like, it just, you never really get the impression that he has, any sort of interest in females or, in any sort of relationship. I'd feel like he'd be very distant.
Well, you can kind of blame that for how a lot of movie villains were portrayed in the 90s. A lot of them were kind of foppish in that sense, so you can't really use that as a basis too much.
True.
Right.
But yeah, in any case, like, even so, his overall demeanor just suggests that he's not really interested in any relationship unless, it were to be for power. Otherwise, it's like he probably wouldn't give you the time of day, yeah.
I just hate that, the fact that, Scar's supposed to be smart, and he's not really all that smart. Like, they were accurate in that he's not a good fighter, because that was a thing established in the original, that Scar, when it came to Mufasa, was definitely not prepared to fight his brother directly. That's why he has that whole underhanded plan in order to take him down. That's how Scar is, but I don't know, I felt like they didn't portray him as being smart enough, and I know because he was still kind of young, but even then, like, it wasn't until the betrayal that he actually shows how smart he is. And it's like, does turning evil give you brains all of a sudden?
Apparently.
I guess.
There's a lot of things I don't like. The only other thing that I do want to mention that I liked, Zazu was a little bit much, but I like how they showcase Mufasa learning that everyone has something to contribute. And by the end, it shows that, oh yeah, we can fight back. There's more of us than there are of them. And, like, that part was good. It's just there's these little sparks of goodness in an otherwise really bland and bad film that I don't like, and that's why I put it number 6. Does anyone want to add on to that, or are we going to end?
I want to talk about the villain whose name escapes me at the moment, so I'll call him Kimba the White Lion. It's a Kira.
You may as well be.
So he kind of bothers me in his plan, his whole thing. Like, he is really just determined to make, the other lions pay. It's like, he slaughters all of, the pride of Mufasa and Taka. And it's like, yeah, because Mufasa basically killed his son. And it's like, then they run while, the pride is being slaughtered. So it's like, bro, you won. You killed all of their family. You basically got revenge. You have their land, which is what, was keeping you, motivated to lash out in the first place. Why do you need to go after these two lions, especially when they're practically going to kill themselves with all the times that they jump off waterfalls and stuff? It did not seem worth the effort.
All right, Kat, you wanted to add something?
I will say one thing. The scenery in this movie is way better than it has any reason to be. Like, I was kind of getting Good Dinosaur vibes because I'm looking at the sceneries, particularly of the mountains, and I'm like, why does this look so damn good? It's a prequel to The Lion King. What the hell? That was one of the big points that I liked about it. But yeah, in terms of overall, like I said, it's still a bad film. It's still an highly unnecessary film. But I still maintain that at least there was effort put into it. They had a good voice cast. They had, an original story that didn't borrow from, fan canon or anything. They had a lot of details that are found in the original movie as well as the sequel, the TV shows, and everything else. So, I gotta give it credit for at least putting more effort than Moana 2 did into everything. That's for certain. And at least nobody was exploited. I mean, heck, if anything, when you think about it, aside from 2 characters, it's a mostly black cast that is in this movie. And actually, I gotta point out something that I learned that was extremely funny to me. Mufasa's parents were played by Anika Anani Rose and Keith David. So Tiana and the Shadow Man are Mufasa's parents, and that is the weirdest canon to me ever.
Yeah, they do waste Keith David though, but you do raise a point there.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's effort, and if you're really curious, by all means check it out. But yeah, if they do release this, I hope to God they cut out the segments with Timon and Pumbaa, because they are the absolute worst in this, and they have absolutely no business being in this film. Screw those guys.
We do not need Timon and Pumbaa in this. I liked Rafiki. Rafiki had probably the best plot in the film. But,
yeah, this is not Lion King 1.5, alright? You may reference it, but this is not that movie, okay? You do not need their commentary.
With that being said, this year was a little bit mixed. There was a lot of good, there was a lot of bad, there was some that was frustrating. I don't think anything really would have come close if this was a normal year. Some of them my top, some of my bottom probably would have shifted around because some of it is just not worthy, but Deadpool and Wolverine definitely was. There's a lot of stuff that I think you should check out. It's just, when it comes to Moana 2 and Mufasa, those were near the bottom for a reason. I feel like there's stuff that held this year back in a big way, and it really needed a second draft. Next year is supposedly going to have a lot more film, so we're going to see that when we get there. Doug, what do you think of this year overall?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with that. I'd say 2 very good movies, 2 movies that were good, 2 that were just not good.
Yeah.
That's basically how I see it. It's sad that they figured, because of the sequel model, that's basically what we're going to put our time and money into now is, making sequels to everything. So basically, it's them doing the live action remakes again, because they think, we've got to, chase the money. So yeah, I don't know if I'm really looking forward to what 2025 brings. Certainly looking forward to Captain America. But beyond that, I don't know. I really don't.
Captain America and Snow White look good. Those were the trailers that we saw. I did like the look of Stitch, but it's really hard to root for some of these when we've seen where they went in some directions in the past few years. Kat.
Yeah, this year was definitely the lightweight of all the years we've done past for certain, and obviously that's because of the writer's strike and other factors, and obviously, like I said, this year they had to focus on making money because they lost out so much the previous year, so I kind of get it, and if I'm honest, it was kind of a relief for us to sort of take a break from all the slog that they would normally release on Disney+, but even then, what was good was really good. You could tell that there was at least effort put into stuff. Most of the stuff this year. And they haven't had some, like, good, like, minor hits. So, I wouldn't say 2024 was a total wash in terms of, like, movies. Like, it definitely was lacking because, in terms of quality, but, like, at least, you know, again, there was effort made, and we got stuff that we've long been waiting for. In terms of the new year, I'm a little bit more skeptical because we got more sequels, of course. You know, we have Freakier Friday, we have Tron Ares, we have Zootopia 2, and of course we have the usual bad live adaptation lineup with Snow White and Lilo and Stitch. But we actually have an original this year. We have Ilio from Pixar, so that might be good. Again, I don't hold out much hope. Like, again, some of these I have actually been looking forward to, and others not so much, but, you know, I guess it's one of those let's wait and see type of things. Like, I expect some to be big stinkers this year, but again, we'll have to wait and see.
I like the look of Elio, and a lot of the trailers look fine. It just, the problem is, oftentimes when we're done little teasers like we got with Stitch, the product is not always what we want it to be. With that said, we have been going for nearly 2 hours, so it's time to wrap it up. I am Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns.
I'm Kat McBerry.
I'm about to make a name for myself. Woo! I'm Doug McBerry.
And this is Remy, who did make a name for herself.
Yeah, Remy has a lot of opinions today, and we will see you guys next time when we delve back into the ordinary Disney debate. We're going to at least attempt to do one a month. You know, we're working around Remy's schedule these days. But with that being said, hopefully next time we have something that's, more up to our speed, less bland like Mufasa. You never know. You guys have a good one, and just remember, don't turn on someone who murdered your dad for a woman.